It's Wednesday night, April 17th, 2019, and this is a live stream from Decatur Makers Open Build Night. Warm welcome, makers. We're coming to you live from Decatur Makers Makerspace in downtown Decatur, Georgia. You can find us tonight at 605 West Ponce de Leon Avenue and online at decaturmakers.org. Decatur Makers' mission is to be a welcoming, family-friendly community. Build, share, explore. For the last 2 years, our membership has hosted Open Build Nights on the second, third, and fourth Wednesdays of each month at 7 p.m. Come on by and check us out. Open Build Nights are open to all. You can bring a project, you can find a project, you can meet others, get a tour, ask questions, or even join in a group build. Stop in, check out our space, and experience the magic.
Hello, welcome to another Decatur Makers live stream. I am your host, Shondon Moore, and I'm here with another Decatur Makers guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name's George Breedon.
All right, so George here has made tons of projects in his Decatur Makers space, and we've been waiting a long time to have him on the live stream. And so I actually, before we begin into all these cool projects that he brought, I would like him to, talk about sort of what brought you to this space and sort of your background into all of this making.
Sure, yeah. So I've been a member at Decatur Makers around 2 years now, I want to say. And what brought me to this space was first the tools, and then what kind of kept me around were the people and the community. I never really had much of a background in making. I enjoyed fixing little things here and there around the house, but when I moved to the Decatur area, I started working on a house that my girlfriend and I bought, and then one thing led to another. I started watching tons of YouTube videos about carpentry and then fine woodworking, and I decided, man, I really need to use a table saw. I didn't want to buy a table saw, so I did a Google search. Hey, is there a shared space that I could use a table saw at? And Decatur Makers came up, and that kind of how it all started. First thing I made was a cutting board with a table saw. Just stripped it up, glued it together. There I quickly learned a lot of the other tools, got involved in community projects. I've gained a lot of skills. I wouldn't have called myself a woodworker when I started, but now that I've been doing it for a little while, I would say I'm intermediate, somewhere in the middle, kind of not great, but still learning. Awesome. Happy about that, yeah.
So that's a similar story for a lot of the makers here at Decatur Makers. And so George has actually brought in some of his cool projects that he has made. And we can start with this wood bowl here. So would you like to talk about this?
Sure, yeah. So this, guess I'll hold over here so you guys can see it pretty well. This is actually a solid mahogany bowl that I made. And actually I used the CNC, which is our large computer pneumatic cutter. It's basically just a router on a XYZ gantry system that moves around. Depending on the G code that you input, that you create in design software. So this was just a solid block of mahogany that I then designed tool paths for different kind of router bits to hog all this out. It's a dog paw because I have lots and lots of dogs, and a lot of the things I make are either nerd themed or dog themed. It's kind of my MO, I guess, my shtick. But yeah, I thought it was really cool to make. Bowls are usually made on lathes. Trays sometimes can be made with hand routers, but it was cool to make it on a tool that you wouldn't necessarily think was for making bowls. So it's definitely a project that turned out a lot better than some of my other ones. So this is one of the ones that I'm proud of, for sure. Yeah.
Cool. So speaking of nerd-related things, this is actually probably on the more simpler things if you've seen George's work. And he has much more advanced CNC and building skills. And so that's where this guy comes in. And so, George, if you want to talk a bit about what that is.
Yeah, so as I said, I make a lot of really nerdy stuff. So for anybody out there who watched Stargate back in the day, I'm still watching Stargate. It's an awesome show. They need to make another one. But I found a really cool file online of just a vector image of the Earth Stargate, and I said, hey, I bet I could throw that on that file into some design software. VCarve is the software I use for the CNC, and carve that out. And I had other work I had to do, so I came in one afternoon and set this up to cut. You can see you can get really good detail out of what's called a V-bit. It's a router bit that comes to a point at a certain angle. This was done with a 60 degree, and the cone is 60 degrees as it travels up. And it made all that detail in there, and then I hogged out a hole with a flat bit here. I painted it, and then I inlaid with epoxy. Epoxies and CNC projects are really fun. It gives it kind of that extra kind of pop to it that just paint usually doesn't accomplish. But yeah, I do projects like this because I just kind of want to hone my skills and eventually make something I actually think is really nice. Most of the stuff I make just kind of ends up on the wall in my office. But yeah, I have a lot more nerdy stuff in my office for sure.
So in terms of design to so the conception of the idea to the finished product, how long would you say that normally takes? From you want to build this and now it's actually done?
So it depends on what I'm doing. If I'm doing an engraving, kind of like the Stargate, it actually doesn't take a super long period of time because usually I find a clean file that I can trace or an SVG online. That I just import in the software. I do some adjustments for toolpaths and can kind of get it on there. If I'm designing a piece, like an original piece, like if I'm cutting out pieces of a sheet of plywood to fit a certain design problem, that usually takes a little bit longer. Looking at a couple hours of drawing and kind of tweaking. I always like to do a test project of anything I'm building, especially if I'm going to build multiples of them. I like to make a test project out of maybe some scrap plywood or scrap MDF. The simulations you get in software are great, but they're not always 100% accurate. So sometimes it's great to actually have it do the thing, and then you have a tactile thing to look at. Like this was just kind of an experiment, and it turned out well enough that I painted it. But sometimes you don't know what you need to fix unless you can actually kind of see it. Get hands-on. I'm pretty hands-on with understanding things. I'm not super abstract, so I kind of have to do that as part of my process.
Cool. And so do you have any projects you're working on now? Anything neat coming up or no?
I don't have anything going on at the moment. I just finished up an order for a lab over at Mri. I made them 8, they call Mri Training Coils. It was basically a bunch of plywood parts cut up and glued together. They use them to train dogs to sit their head. They sit their head in the coil, and that gets them used to sitting their head in the coil when they actually go to the MRI. But that was actually a really fun project because I was given a design problem. Hey, we might want to use these in the MRI. We might want to stick them in there just so the dog's kind of used to it. And the other iterations they had that they had built before, they all had screws everywhere. So I had to design something that I could slot together and clamp up and glue up with no metal. Because if you put a little bit of metal in MRI, it's going to shoot. It's a giant magnet tube. So that took me a while to design. I cut out a couple test pieces. But once I got it dialed in, I was just cutting sheet after sheet and then gluing it up. So that's what I was doing recently, and I really enjoyed that project. Yeah.
Awesome. So that's an excellent example of all the neat things you can do here at Decatur Makers. I suppose if you don't have any type of Instagram you want people to follow or anything like that, would you?
Not really, no.
All right, cool. Well, if you do come to the Decatur Maker space, you'll probably see George hanging around doing some CNC stuff, and you'll see all the rest of the live stream team as well, and maybe we'll put you on video camera as well. But for that, we'll call this an end to the interview.
Upcoming events. Save the date, May 7th. Make it up at Decatur Makers Improv Fundraiser at Eddie's Attic. Tickets on sale now. April 26th, Freeside Atlanta hosts Artist Garage Sale. May 24th through 26th, check out Decatur Makers booth at the Decatur Arts Festival. And look for these Decatur Makers events on meetup.com while you enjoy a carousel of the Make It Up talent. Thursday, April 18th, 7 p.m., Woodshop 101. Saturday, April 20th, 6 p.m., Board Game Meetup. Sunday, April 21st, 1 p.m., Clean Up the Space Day. Monday, April 22nd, 7 p.m., Glowforge 101. Tuesday, April 23rd, 7 p.m., Welding Machine Basics. Wednesday, April 24th at 5 p.m., we'll have our family build night. And Wednesday, April 24th at 7 p.m., will be the next open build night. All right, makers, get out there and make it good.